Oh, yeah. So All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and open up the regular city council meeting and call it to order. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the back wall next to the agendas. At this time, we'll have roll call.
Seven present, one absent, Mayor.
I don't have any comments tonight, so we'll move on to item 1 on the agenda is a motion to adopt the current agenda for the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Please vote to adopt the agenda.
Motion carries 7-0.
Now moving on to appointments. Item 2 is resolution 2025-033 appointing Michael Chatterson as city clerk. It is my honor tonight to present Michael Chatterson as our new city clerk here at the city of Fremont. He's a Nebraska native. He graduated from Doane University with a bachelor's degree in pre-law and history and a double minor in political science and sociology. He is pursuing a master's degree from UNO in political science. His most recent position was as a claims adjuster for a workman's compensation insurance company in Omaha. Michael and his wife, Mackenzie, and his 2 children, Jager and Jovi, live here in Fremont. And so, again, we're super excited to be able to have Michael join the city team. It's great that he has his family here as well. And again, it's a great thing to be able to fill this position with a quality candidate like Michael. So are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Sukram?
If there's nobody to speak, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Councilwoman Ganem?
Second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Congratulations, Michael. Welcome to the city of Fremont. Moving on to item 3 is a motion to the consent to the mayor's appointment of Lee Meyer to the Creative Council. Pleased to be able to present Lee Meyer as a appointment to the Creative Council for our creative district. Take any questions from the council if there are any. If there are none, I'd take a motion to approve her appointment. Councilwoman Ganem.
I move the appointment of Lee Meyer to the Creative Council.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second that motion.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 4 is a motion to the consent to the mayor's reappointment of council member Lori Lathrop to the local option review team. Thank you, Lori, for agreeing to be reappointed to this board is in regards to our LB 840 program. So if there are no comments, I'd take a motion to approve the appointment. Councilman Horner.
I will make that motion to approve or to reappoint Lori Lathrop.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 6-1 with 1 abstention.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 5 is a motion to the consent to mayor's reappointment of Michelle Weesey and Chuck Johansson to the Citizens Advisory Review Committee. Again, these are reappointments. I appreciate both of these individuals continuing their service. If there are no other comments, I'd take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Peterson.
I second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 6 is a motion to consent to the mayor's reappointment of Aaron Payton and Diane Hillis to the Parks and Recreation Board. Again, thank these individuals for their reappointment and agreeing to serve another term. Councilman Peterson,
I make a motion to approve that.
okay, Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
Councilman Peterson, I think you,
Motion carries 7-0.
and item 7 on appointments is a motion to consent to the mayor's reappointment of myself to City Council Member Blair Horner, Council Member Mark Jensen, Council Member James Vaughn to the Public Service Answering Point Governing Board. Again, this is our joint board with the county in regards to our PSAP or communications board within the city and the county. So any questions on this? These are reappointments. If they're on, I'd take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councilman Horner or Councilman Ganem.
Second,
Please vote.
Motion carries 6 with 1 abstention.
Okay. Now we're moving on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Councilman Peterson.
Yes, I would like to pull out number 11, resolution 2025-035.
Councilwoman Ganem.
number 15, resolution 2025-024.
Any other items? Any items from the public to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, I would take a motion then to approve the consent agenda items 8 through 10, 12 through 14, 16, and 17. Councilman Horner.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as just stated.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 11 is resolution 2025-035, authorizing the mayor to sign the addendum with Forvis Mazars LLC for additional scope of work. Now we'll have our staff report from Jen Knabb, our finance director.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, Jennifer Knabb, Finance Director. This is an addendum to our current auditors. They always do a full audit. And then we also, when we have federal expenditures that are over $1 million, and this year we do, we also then will have a single audit on particular programs this year because of the wonderful amount of federal expenditures we had in 2024. There was enough where 2 programs needed to be audited. So that is an additional single audit. And so this is an addendum for up to $15,000, which is what it costs for them to do that additional work for us. And I will take any questions.
Any questions, staff? Okay. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I guess take a motion to approve. Councilman Horner.
I will make a motion to approve Forvis Mazars for the single audit.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on now to item 15 is resolution 2025-024, approving the request of Keel's Barber Shop to use the parking lot on the northwest corner of Park and Sixth Street, also known as the Schwazers Lot, for Keel's Barber Shop's Race Car Family Day. We have the applicant here. Go ahead.
Connie Dostal. I live in North Bend at 941 Mulberry Street. I own Keel's Barber Shop at 88 West Sixth Street. Last year, we had this event. We had really no major problems on it. I talked to the church, let them know the parking lot was going to be used. There was a food vendor there. We did have a little bit problems with him, just not understanding what was going on, but that was resolved. We had 6 race cars and 3 go-karts. This is a family event where the kids can be involved. They get in the race cars, they get to sit in the go-karts. We have representatives from Eagle Way Raceway come and represent them. I actually sponsor one of the race cars, and this is just my way of giving back to them and the community. We do free hot dogs, chips, drinks. It's just a family event, and it's basically all free.
Great. Are there any questions for the applicant? Councilwoman Ganem.
No questions for the applicant per se, because we say thank you for providing the activity and certainly all that you do for Fremont. My question is one of clarification, because there is a food vendor truck on that parking lot. And my question is, I wondered who was responsible to let that person know that the parking lot is closed for an event.
Yeah, thank you. Travis J. Cott, City Attorney. This type of issue in our ordinance for food trucks, it specifically says that food trucks can't operate in a lot where there's an event. So it would be complaint driven. If the applicant or someone else notices that there's a violation of the ordinance, then we would have recommend calling our non-emergency police line. We don't have a monitor of all the food trucks, but that would be a good way to remedy the problem as quickly as possible. To answer your question.
Thank you.
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask on that vein, I mean, why do we wait? If we know who the food truck is, and we know who they are, tell them in advance. Don't wait for them to show up and say, hey, by the way, we got it.
Told him, he had told me that there would be no problem because he wasn't going to be there on Sunday. It just happened that through communication, 2 different languages, he said he didn't understand. I called the non-emergency line. An officer came down. They were able to get somebody to interpret to him so he understood that he could set up anywhere else, but this was reserved and I had the paperwork for it.
Any other additional comments from council? Thank you for hosting your event, Fremont. Are there any comments from the public? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Horner.
No, Mayor, I was just going to say if there are no other comments from council, I was just going to make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-024 for the parking lot closure request.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to unfinished business is item 18, ordinance 5704, establishing the rate schedules for electricity and repealing ordinance number 5670. Again, this is third and final reading tonight.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. This is the third reading of the electric rate ordinance. The electric rate ordinance is looking at about a 4% increase across the board for all the different classifications. We're asking for approval. There's been nothing changed from the second reading.
Questions for staff? Thank you. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen.
If no additional comments, I'll make the motion that we move ordinance 5704 to the third and final reading.
Councilwoman Ganem,
I second.
please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
We'll have final reading.
Ordinance number 5704, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, establishing rate schedules for electricity consumed by customers of the municipal electric system, defining terms, repealing ordinance number 5670, and all other ordinances or part of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing when the rate schedules are effective, and providing when the ordinance shall be in full force and effect. Third reading.
We're gonna again have the final vote for this ordinance right now, once we get it ready. Please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we will now move on to item 19, which is ordinance 5705, revising the municipal code section 3-318. Again, this is third and final reading.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility General Manager. This is a clarification in the municipal code to match the municipal code to the rate ordinance with the various classifications to keep them in sync with each other. So this is to just amend the municipal code to match the rate ordinance classes.
Are there any questions for staff on this item? Are there any comments from the public? Okay, are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion again to hold third and final reading of ordinance 5705. Councilman Horner.
Yes, Mayor, I'll make the motion to hold the third and final reading of ordinance 5705.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Motion carries 7-0.
We'll now have final reading.
Ordinance 5705, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending chapter 3, article 3, section 3-318 of the Fremont Municipal Code, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance and providing when the ordinance shall be in full force and effect. Third reading.
We'll now have the final vote for this ordinance when we get it ready.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, we'll now move on to new business. And item 20 is to receive the Key Memorial Library 2023-2024 annual report. We have Laura England Biggs, our library director here. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. Laura England Biggs, Library Director. 2023-2024 was a big year for Keene Memorial Library. We packed up and left the city auditorium and returned home to 1030 North Broad Street, where we have had a very good year. After our ribbon cutting on February 6th, we decided to take a long view of the statistics. When we looked at our 2019 fiscal year checkouts, It was around 121,000 for the year. 2023, 2024, we saw over 160,000. What I found significant in that was that the 2019 digital checkouts, the overdrive, this was before COVID, we numbered at 18,763. In 2023, 2024, it was just shy of 75,000. That's like a 4 times increase. We saw a slight decrease in adult print material checkouts. I think because adults are turning to the devices they can hold in their hand or listen to in their cars. But our children's checkouts have stayed very, very consistent, 55,000 to 53,000. We saw astronomical growth in our patron database. A good year for us used to be 500 to 600 new patrons, new card holders. Last year, we had over 1,600. I'm sorry, 1,400. I had a 6 in there. 1,606 according to this report. So again, that's a large increase. After a year of having no rooms available, we saw 421 meeting room reservations with over 2,000 people. I can tell you that as of January 31st, we're sitting at 384 room reservations in 4 months. We are definitely going to beat last year's numbers. The amazing new library that you allowed us to create is serving the public, and people are still coming in saying, I haven't been here since you opened. Wow, what an amazing place. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this project and to continue to be your library director. Nothing but wonderful things to say about the library at which I've been working for almost 20 years.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the council? Questions? Councilman Jensen?
I just want to say thank you for your service in the library. It's a great place. It's a fabulous resource for everybody in Fremont. We appreciate the direction you take it.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ganem?
And Mark said what I was going to say, but we certainly appreciate the time and effort and dedication that you and your staff have taken to make the opening a smooth transition, and certainly encouraging and promoting reading and literacy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Sukram?
Mark took most of it, but that's pretty much what I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
A great, historic year. You can open that facility. I remember that back to that ribbon cutting was in February, and all the growth that we've seen and just patrons visiting. Like you said, I think people walk into the space and they are just kind of in awe. I mean, you see the chandelier when you come in, you see the space being utilized, how it was meant to be utilized, the vision really coming to reality. That's the fun parts of the job, right? So
Absolutely.
Thank you and your team for all your work and for hosting the council meetings when we had to. So that was also an important part of the new library's history, is having that as well. So thank you. Are there any comments to the public on this? Okay, any additional comments from council? If none, I take a motion. This would be to receive the library report, annual report. Councilman Horner.
Yeah, Mayor, I would like to make that motion that we receive the 2023-2024 Library Board Annual Report.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 21 is resolution 2025-031, affirming the emergency declaration by the mayor and the utility general manager for expenses in excess of the spending limit. I'll have staff report.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utilities General Manager. This isn't near as rosy as the last one. But we had a On January 13th, we had a tube failure on Unit 6, trip Unit 6 offline, and and also Unit 7 offline. Unit 7, we're in the process of getting the induced draft fan rewound, try to get it back online, hopefully in a month or so. But we reached out to the insurance company right away, got an insurance adjuster, have a claim number, so we're working with them. Then we started the cleanup and abatement process before we can get in to start doing any kind of discovery and look for root cause analysis and see what the overall impact of the damage is. So until those are both, they won't be repaired for some time, 6 anyway. So we're requesting this be affirmed a declaration of emergency. And then we'll proceed with, we'll still try to get quotes, but we have to move this project along as soon as possible to get it going and get it back online. So we will report back once all the repairs are finished and the unit's back online. We'll report back with what the actual overall costs were.
Questions for staff? Councilman Sukram.
Yeah, do you have any type of window as to repair the final one?
No, we have not been able to even get in there and look at the overall root cause analysis. We can't, we're doing asbestos abatement right now. So it's all being taken care of by the abatement company. We've gotten all clear on some of the air, but we've found some other stuff on ductwork. We're gonna get some grading out. Once we get to clear, then we'll get in there with the engineering team to look at all the damage, and then we can get with the tube manufacturers and see what the timeline is for getting remanufactured tubes. Our goal is that we'd be on by the fall because we need to get Unit 8 offline. We had some big outages planned for this spring that we're putting on hold because we can't have multiple units down at once going into the summer. So ideally, we would like to be on with these units in the fall. We'll have to see what all the damage is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, are there any comments from the public on this? Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion this to be affirmed the emergency declaration. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion for resolution 2025-031.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 22 is resolution 2025-027 awarding the John C. Fremont Park Amphitheater Auxiliary Building and Landscaping bid to JEO Architecture and authorizing the capital improvement funding for fiscal year 26 for the John C. Fremont Park renovation. We have Nick Hansen here, Parks and Rec, to give our report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Nick Hansen, Director of Parks and Rec. Back in 2023, the city applied for the Civic and Community Funding Grant, the CCFF grant. We were awarded $400,000 to be able to improve John C. Fremont Park. With that $400 match, there was an error on my part where I put in the CIP for $400,000. But I also had to put in that grant for extra $400,000, so I was a little short in the CIP. In the meantime, obviously our Parks and Rec master plan was developed in 2024. Our plan for the amphitheater in the beginning was just a standalone amphitheater. With our master plan, the phase of 1A had actually a bigger amphitheater with more amenities and a restroom, and then all of the walking trails and renovations through John C. Fremont Park. When it comes down to it, this year we'll be able to do the consultant for about $181,000. But just in the future for next year, our CIP is probably going to go up about $1.7 million for the renovation because I'm only going to be able to complete the consultant fees this year because we're going to have to wait, unless if we want to move forward. We'll have to wait for John C. Fremont Days and Hispanic Festival to get done. So construction can't start until August. And that's my report.
Questions for Mr. Hanson? Don't see any. Are there any comments from the public? Are there any additional comments from council on this? I appreciate your work on this, Nick. I mean, this is a pretty exciting project for John C. Fremont Park. I mean, we look at the amphitheater, if you go on the backup, which is the public can see the design of what John C. Fremont Park is gonna look like. We went through the Parks and Rec Master Plan, which was part of this process as well, that again, tied into the grant and everything that you've worked on. So to get this design work done by JEO is critical for this project to move forward. So, but it's, I think, very exciting for the area. You see what's happening in the area of downtown. So, no other comments from council. I'd take a motion. Councilman Peterson.
I enthusiastically make a motion to support this resolution.
Councilman Sukram.
I will second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Then item 23 is resolution 2025-028, authorizing the Parks and Recreation Board to approve the fee waiver requests.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Nick Hanson, Director Parks and Rec. This is a resolution that we were asked to look at the fee reduction application. Our Parks Board took a look at that on February 3rd in our Parks Board meeting. We had an actual fee application that they reviewed, considered and determined for future fees. Up to about 50% is what the fee reduction could be if somebody asks for a fee reduction. There is a criteria that they have to meet that is in the application. What they're also asking is to allow the Parks Board to then make that recommendation without having to bring the application to council.
Questions for staff? Any comments from the public on this item? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Horner.
Mayor, I didn't think we'd need a whole lot of discussion since this was at the request of city council that we get this done. So I will happily make the motion that we approve resolution number 2025-028.
Councilman Sukram.
I will second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Item 24 is a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers regarding the wages. I have staff report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Jennifer McDuffie, Director of Human Resources. We brought something similar to you about a year ago. We've been taking a look at our wages that we offer employees, and we still are lagging quite a ways behind. So staff is recommending that we provide a mid-year cost of living increase of 2.5% through the next 4 agenda items. This will cover everybody but fire and police bargaining units. Their contracts that they last negotiated and an MOU that we went through with the IAFF gave them quite significant increases. So they're not included in this, but ultimately these 4 items will provide effective April 6th, a 2.5% increase for all other employees to try to keep us competitive. And it will minimize any adjustments that we do with the new fiscal year. Take any questions?
Councilman Horner.
Thank you, Jennifer. How far through the budget cycle? I mean, is this going to take us through the next 2 years on the increase? Can we expect to see another one next year, or how far is this going to carry us?
So we will be looking at this again. We have negotiations this fall, this summer and fall with the unions. So this will be looked at a lot closer and a lot harder. And of course, that will be negotiated. So we can't tell you exactly where we'll end up, but this will hopefully be a step in the right direction before we enter those negotiations.
Councilman Von Baeren.
Jennifer, just, can you give us an overview where we are in the overall hiring process? Are we at a competitive disadvantage compared to surrounding communities, comparable communities? How do we sit in terms of hiring?
So a lot of the communities that we compare to did take significant or higher in cost of living increases. Would be 2 and 3 and 4 years ago. During COVID, that was a significant thing. We saw cost of living increases at 6% and higher. So we do lag behind. There's also the discussion of who we compare to versus who we compete with. And if we're not matching or beating the ones we compete with, we're really struggling to get those positions in the door.
I assume we're talking about Omaha and the bigger metro areas?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for staff on this item? Okay, any comments from the public on this? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen.
If there's no additional comments, I'll make the motion to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Motion carries 7-0.
Now, item 25 is a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees regarding wages. Any questions on this item? Are there any comments from the public? Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make that motion.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Now, item 26 is ordinance 5706 for the approval of the government salary ordinance. This is the first reading. Now have staff report.
Versus, this would be the salary ordinance that would provide the 2.5% to the city side of the organization. Again, this includes everybody but fire and police bargaining units.
Questions for staff on this? Are there any comments from the public? Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram.
I'll make the motion on ordinance 5706.
Councilman Horner.
I will second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
We'll have first reading.
Ordinance 5706, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number
Which ordinance are we repealing?
I
You
do
have
not
it?
remember off the top of my head.
I think it's on the-
5690.
Repealing 5690? Okay. Why don't we start over?
An
Angie?
ordinance of this, ordinance number 5706, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5690 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to item 27 is ordinance 5707 for the approval of the utility salary ordinance. This is first reading.
Jennifer McDuffie, Director of Human Resources. This would be the salary ordinance for the utility side of the organization, both the bargaining unit and non-union positions.
Questions for staff on this? Are there any comments from the public? Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I'd take a motion. Councilwoman Gannon.
Move that we introduce and hold first reading of ordinance 5707.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Please vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Repealing ordinance
5, 6, 8, 9.
5, 6, 8, 9. We'll have first reading.
Ordinance number 5707, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5689 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 28, is ordinance 5708, revising section 5-203 of the Fremont Municipal Code prohibiting through truck, semi-truck traffic. This is first reading. And I'd open it up to Councilman Horner or Sukrum to open this item up.
Thank you, Mayor. Dev graciously agreed with me to, sponsor this item. And, if you've read the background, I think that's self-explanatory. I want to be really clear on this and, kind of buried in this thing in the middle, I have a statement that says for clarity and transparency. And I want to make sure that I'm really clear on what I'm asking and what Dev and I are asking to do here. We're simply asking that we revise the existing ordinance 5-203 truck routes so that we will now make it unlawful for a through truck to transit Fremont. And a through truck is very simply defined as one that originates someplace outside, in this case, our ETJ or extra territorial jurisdiction, and it is destined someplace outside of the ETJ. It does not begin or stop in Fremont. This was, trying to answer the concerns for the people on Broad Street about truck traffic. We do have a route around the city now. I think it'd be a really good natural selection for those trucks to go around. And I believe that, what we can't do at this time is to try to address the issue of all trucks on that route. We have 23 designated truck routes in the city of Fremont. We have a number of those that also go by homes every day. It's not just on Broad Street. So we have this issue in other places, and there's not a good fix for it for us. So again, this is through trucks. It's not all trucks, but I think it's going to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sukrum.
Yeah, first, I have some constituents who weren't able to come tonight, so they wanted us to receive an email they sent to me. So I'll
take a motion to receive the email. Councilman Jensen.
I'll make the motion to receive.
Councilman Horner.
I'll second.
Please vote to receive the constituent email.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions from the council? Councilman Sukrum, did you have anything else you'd like to mention?
No, I did. I just want to make sure this.
Okay. Okay. Is there any further discussion at this moment from the council? Councilman Von Baron.
Do we have any sense of volume of traffic types of trucks? I know it's kind of all over the board. It's probably grain semis and concrete trucks. And do we have anything to measure, understand? I know that's a vague question, but I'm not quite sure what I'm asking, other than we're trying to, I agree with the ordinance, and I really appreciate your bringing that. Do we have a sense of what the current traffic really is?
You know, Paul, I mean, that's a very good question. It's one that I've had myself, and I can tell you a very unscientific measurement. Me sitting at Dairy Queen or in the Burger King parking lot and kind of looking at trucks and trying to come up with an idea of where they're from, where they're going, which you can't. You can look at some and go, okay, that's coming to Fremont, kind of a thing. Tried to do the same thing sitting on the south end. You know, those numbers are going to vary widely, depending upon who you ask. Since I'm at the microphone, I'm going to say it's a significant number, but I don't know what that is. Is it 20%? I just couldn't tell you.
Well, I can support any survey done sitting at Dairy Queen. So I think that, no, my concern, and I'll refer to it here in a little bit, but I've had some similar experience. My concern is enforcement. It's pretty loose, but if we're going to say it's just a secondary violation, I'm just concerned whether or not we can truly address the issue with that. And I'll let everybody else speak. I have a suggestion that I'd like to offer.
You know, I had a lot of people give me feedback on this one, and that's where they went almost every single time. I don't have a good answer for that. I think that it's just like a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can't do with a commercial truck. You can't, you know, you can't transport illegal goods, et cetera. Those are laws that you can only enforce once they become known. An ordinance creates the opportunity to enforce. It's not necessarily providing enforcement measures. I don't know how to do that with this other than create the ordinance so we can hopefully put out some signs, start getting some trucks going around. And then if it becomes an issue, then we got to figure that out. But I don't know how to address it. So if you got a suggestion.
Thank you.
I know that the city, we have worked very hard to contact our large truck, you know, users in the area, especially Lincoln Premium Poultry, who is completely using the bypass. If there's any reason why they have to bring trucks through town, they reach out to us and let us know why and what's going on. We've also reached out to Holstone. So the very large users should be using the bypass, and we are, you know, working with them to do that. So that should, you know, have helped with the traffic. You know, to know how many is just hard, you know, to know. But no, we want to be able to work with the residents and be able to do something. And I think that's the intent here of bringing this forward, especially now that we have the Southeast Beltway open and we have a very modern transportation network around the community that we should all be proud of. Councilwoman Ganem.
No, and along those lines too, you mentioned about signage. We can't put any signage up to inform people to use the bypass unless you have an ordinance. So I look at this as a first step, and then we can look about signage. And if we wait to put signage up when they get into Fremont, it's almost too late. So I don't know, you'll have to reach out, Mr. Mayor, to our state officials and some of those outside of Fremont so that those signs could be in advance and not wait till they get to Broad Street and 23rd to say, oh, by the way, use the bypass. It's almost too late for some of that. If we wait to put it in the city can reinforce that. And yes, I know that it's by coincidence or just by chance when you stop a truck for not following a through truck and you discover that it's a through truck, then you can go forward with that. And certainly they're breaking the law, then a ticket could be issued. But you're right. I mean, you can't just say, oh, that's a through truck, that one's not. It would be very difficult to pick those out. That someone's speeding, someone's not following the law, they are stopped, and you discover that they are a through truck, then you can address it. But hopefully the other issues that like signage or reducing the speed limit, people are just looking for ways to speed up their time and get through faster. So this would be a step forward.
Councilman Sukram, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I agree with Blair and Sally. This is a step forward to start to define everything and get it enforced as best as we can.
Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, I would agree on this. You know, this is Fremont for decades. 23rd Street was Highway 30 through Fremont. Bell Street was Highway 275 through Fremont. Broad Street was Highway 77 through Fremont. Those thoughts and patterns don't just change overnight. I mean, it's going to take some time, and us doing some measures like, okay, well, now traffic doesn't need to be this fast over here anymore. Now we slow it down. Now maybe we put up some more stop signs. We make it put up some deterrents. Say, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to go around, and I think that's the direction we need to go with it.
Are there any comments from the public on this item?
Ellen Lund, 1929 North Broad Street. I wish I had realized we were going to ask the question about truck traffic. This summer, I hired my 10-year-old neighbor, Eli Lamone. For hours, he sat out and counted trucks for me. I don't have that traffic study with me right now. I would be more than happy to email those results. He earned some good money, and we counted a lot of trucks this summer. I think my only concern is we need to lower the speed limit. I agree with you. I think that's primary to make it less attractive to be on Broad Street. But what I'm most concerned about it being a secondary violation is I have lived on Broad Street since 1977. I have never seen a semi-truck stopped for speeding. And my Christmas list this year, I wanted a radar gun, and I didn't get it, but my birthday's coming up, and I think I'm going to request one then, because I can tell you that trucks are not obeying the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's significantly more than that. If I have a truck following me and I'm coming from the north headed south, and if we do not get stopped at 23rd and Broad, they are on my tail, and I can't even go the speed limit without getting hit. And I will progress all the way down to 16th Street, even though my house is on 19th, to make a safe turn. Because I know if I stop to turn in my driveway, I may not survive that move. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens frequently enough that it is an issue. So I appreciate this first step. I appreciate how responsive you have been to the neighbors on Broad Street. I realize that the way our town has grown and the industry that we have does make this whole issue a challenge. And I realize it's hard to realize who's through and who isn't, but anything we can do to make going down Broad Street less attractive and to use this wonderful new bypass that we are all so proud of would be most appreciated. And I would also like to thank Lincoln Poultry, because I do not see chicken trucks coming to buy my house. And I am so grateful that they are working with their people to make sure that they do go around. I can't say the same about some other things that we see. Bull haulers are frequent on our street, and they are, quite frankly, the rudest drivers, and they do interfere with traffic. So anything we can do to make that less attractive. But once again, if we lower the speed limit, then I worry that there won't be enforcement anyway. And I realize why it happens. It does slow down traffic, and I've been told that that's part of the reason they don't like to do it. But it needs to happen because we want our neighborhood safe. So thank you for everything you're doing so far. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Any additional comments from the public?
My name is Loretta Maestro, and surprisingly, I live on Broad Street. I appreciate the thought and the attention that Mr. Horner and Mr. Slocum have given to the large trucks invading our streets. However, just hoping they obey won't work. A secondary offense is just like the seatbelt law was, and these trucks are dangerous and mostly have made an attempt to quietly sneak through town. I can repeat many stories told by drivers having the right of way to go through the intersection, and here comes a speeding truck and blows through the red light. That's not unusual. Trucks have killed 3 residents on Broad Street in the last year or so, and ran a red light on Bell, striking a minor on a bike going to school. I'm not saying the trucks were always the ones at fault, but if these 3 people would have run into my car, it wouldn't have killed them. When the workers put up street barriers while they removed the gerbil run at the school, trucks just drove around them. And when they got to the school and couldn't get through, then they turned and went over to H Street and wandered around, trying to get out of town. No, they don't, and they won't play fair. Grand Island has large signs saying no trucks. Columbus made trucks stay on their 23rd Street through months of construction, while their residential streets say no trucks. So the trucks are used to being told no trucks. And I don't know how other cities can do it, that maybe we could do it too, because we have to be able to enforce it somehow, because they're not going to work with us if we just do catch me if you can. But thank you for what you are doing.
Any other comments from the public this item? Okay, additional comments from council. Councilman Von Baron.
Just want to refer, had a similar experience. I was involved with Cargill. One of our tasks was to manage a 24/7, 365-day-a-year, very intensive delivery system. We probably had at any given time between the contract carriers, 100 to 130 drivers, because it was a 7-day, they had multiple shifts. And we had our broad streets. The deliveries covered parts of 6 states. And of course, there are roads that are dangerous and places where they speed and residential neighborhoods. And so we would get complaints and frustration from the people. And I can tell you a couple of things. Number one, the bulk of the truck drivers you're going to deal with here are good people. I really appreciate Holstone and Lincoln Premium for what they have done. But there are always a few hardhead renegades that, I mean, they'll tell you straight up, nobody's going to tell me where I'm going to drive. I've been told that to my face. So what we did, sometimes the best brilliance is no brilliance, just keep it simple. We went to a decal system, and we don't need to go to this extent, but what we did is we put an 800 number on the back of the trucks, and we put a number on each truck. So if somebody was going down the road, all they knew well, they could call the 800 number, blowing through a neighborhood on a road he shouldn't be, rude, whatever it is. They could call, give us a truck number, and we could verify where those trucks were and if somebody was just complaining or if it was real. And it came back, we had a system where the carrier, it would affect his monthly bonus. And if it got severe enough, we just asked that driver not drive for us, which they had no alternative, it could actually cost him his job. My point is, we don't have to go to those lengths. But what we found is over time, we thought the carriers would resent it, and they actually appreciated it. Because now they didn't have to keep getting in their drivers' faces. If we just simply reinforced it and the other drivers got the message, it actually made carrier management and enforcement quite simple. So what I'm suggesting is, and I think the other thing we have to be very careful of is police time. They've got enough to do without adding additional. We're working on some animal ordinances right now, and we're constantly asking, what does it take to enforce this? Is this enforceable? Is it going to be a hassle? And so what I would suggest, an option that might work actually quite well, is that for our in-town, the carriers who are local, residential, who will not be through carriers, we could design a simple decal. It could be very decorative. It could be nice. Just put it on the back of the vehicle. You can pretty easily learn to identify vehicles above the 26,000 gross vehicle weight. But if you see a vehicle going down the street that fits that description and it doesn't have a decal, that's a pretty good indication that they're not where they should be. You know, while you're enforcing it, make the first offenses gracious and all of that. But over time, just simply put some teeth in it. It amazed us how well that worked. We had all kinds of trepidation, but I truly believe that if we went to a simple decal system where our own carriers had the option to label their vehicles and the police simply could use that coding, I think you'd find it a fairly simple solution, and it saves the carriers a lot of management time with their drivers. They don't have to lecture. They don't have to understand if a guy gets stopped, why wasn't the decal on there? You know, keep them permanent. But it was a very simple solution, and it worked quite well. We had very large corporate clients, and if we made an error, some of them took up to 9 deliveries a day and could only hold 2 at a time. So it was intense. We had to be very sure we didn't make any mistakes. This didn't solve it all. There were other things that came up. But seriously, I would ask that we seriously consider a decal system as a marker and a potential enforcement device.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the council at this moment? Councilwoman Ganem.
Just something of interest, with Lincoln Poultry, that traffic had been reduced by 350 trucks a day. So can you imagine if that was back on the roads again? So it is a start. And what Councilman Von Baron referred to, that would be nice. It would be hard for the city to dictate to the businesses what they have to have locally, in my estimation at this point. But always worth looking into.
Councilman Horner.
Yeah, Paul, I really appreciate the idea. I really do. And I think it's something that we could continue to discuss outside of a regular meeting until we hopefully had some sort of a viable option for that. But in the meantime, I would really love to see this, us to go ahead and get the start on this and then try to figure that out as we go. So with that said, I would make the motion that we approve the proposed revision to ordinance 523 on the truck routes.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Okay, this is first reading.
Motion carries 7-0.
We'll now have first reading.
Ordinance 5708, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, repealing and replacing Chapter 5, Article 2, Section 5-203 of the Fremont Municipal Code and all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance, providing for severability, and providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect. First reading.
I would now take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Jensen,
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Motion carries 7-0.
We are adjourned. Stay warm, everybody, and stay safe.